And good morning, everybody. It's May 17th at 9:32. Calling the meeting to order. I'm Nancy Vandell. I have no conflicts of interest that I know of. Could everybody introduce themselves?
Wyatt Angelo, no conflicts.
Michael Beach, no conflicts.
Bill Miller, no conflicts.
Susan Schomburg, no conflicts.
Tom Sipe, no conflicts.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. This is almost a celebration meeting after our bylaws were approved on Saturday by the membership. Before we get into that, let's see, I haven't seen any minutes. Michael, are there any minutes?
Yeah, you all have them. I sent them out this morning. They're very short.
Okay, all right. Well, why don't we hold them over till the next meeting then, and we'll take a look. Thank you. Okay, so my report, I think, well, may as well even go into the meeting recap. But one thing I did want to mention in the report is to, if you haven't already and you plan to, please submit your application to info@NCAC, whatever it is, if you want to reapply. The executive board meeting is going to be a week from Tuesday night at 7. It's open to the public. They're going to be changing the date of the election meeting now that the bylaws are passed. And I think the date that they're thinking of is June 22nd. So we have some time to apply, but one of the things, of course, we can do as we apply is think about what might be useful for a form for the policies and procedures as we go forward. I also want to talk the agenda for the meeting. Let me just go into a share. Can you guys see it okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Find it here. Okay. So I'd like to add at 10:40 or before, depending on how much time we take, a discussion of a calendar for upcoming meetings. So just be thinking about that. We had talked before about not meeting during the summer, but defining that a little bit. And there are 2 meetings still between now and the likely election meeting. So how much work do we want to do on policies and procedures, et cetera, before then? So just think about that. Then we have, I haven't heard whether Sarah Apter is going to attend. I just kind of put her on there as a standing item, and I'm guessing she's not going to. So we're going to talk about the membership meeting recap and any follow-up on the bylaws, and then go into the policies and procedures somewhat. I have to admit, I haven't gotten as far as I was hoping on policies and procedures to send you out in advance, but I do have something to show on the screen that we can add to as we go forward, and we'll talk more about that when we get to it. The calendar, and then meeting and action items. Looks like we're probably not having public members today, so I think that's it. So any changes, additions to the agenda? Okay, may even be able to get out of here early. So going into the bylaws adoption special meeting, I just want to thank all of you. That was such a team in force at that meeting. Tom, you did a great job on the screen with the editing. Susan, the chat, Michael with parliamentary procedures, training and discussion, and Wyatt, just great comments, all of you, with all the way through. So it did take longer than I had anticipated, the 3 full hours, but some of that parliamentary procedure took time, but I think everybody felt heard. I have gotten a couple of kudos notes from, like, Hillary sent something saying she really enjoyed the meeting, even though, her amendment didn't pass. She felt like she was heard. So I think I haven't heard any complaints. So I don't know. Have any of you heard any comments following the meeting? Okay, nope. But we're done. So regarding the bylaws themselves, Tom and I talked immediately after the meeting. Tom immediately after the meeting had done the update for the successful amendment to Article 7. And then when we looked at it, it wasn't completely grammatical. So I'm going to just share that. Okay, can you see the document on the screen here? Looks like, so I'm going to bring it up a little bit. So it's under Article 7 under the Outreach Task Force, and Jeff had made a motion to take out recruit applicants and recommend individual candidates for offices and subcommittees for both for offices and subcommittees and then for task forces. And that was successful. It was a good change that I'm not quite sure why we didn't think about that before, but it was a good change. So it passed unanimously. But the membership for election just didn't seem to fit. And it's also covered elsewhere. It's actually covered up in this section up here that subcommittee members should be elected by the membership, while task force members shall be appointed by the executive board. So it wasn't necessary. So we kind of made an executive decision to use our editing ability that was granted in the motion to take this part out to the membership for election. But I wanted to go through it with you to make sure that's okay with you. Any comments or issues with that?
I'm fine with it because it seems like it should be stricken because it implies almost that even though recommended individual candidates has been removed, that also goes along with the same idea to me anyway.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, Nancy.
Okay, thank you. It just didn't read quite right when we looked at the actual bylaws themselves. So otherwise, I think we have an official copy of the bylaws. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and Jeff has posted on the main page of the website. It's not yet in the archive or in the references area where you go. If you go into the bylaws there, it's still got the old ones, but he's got the version that was passed on the website on the main page. So at this point, I want to apologize. I've had a couple of medical things happen early in the week that I wasn't as forth or getting out the email as quickly as I had hoped to. But anyway, it's you all saw the email that I sent out yesterday to Sarah. So I'm hoping she's going to send us her final approval. I have not heard from her, but I tell you, there's just no excuse. She was at the community plan meeting last night. The woman is just amazing. So I'm sure we'll hear from her soon.
That not only that, but she left another meeting early to attend ours.
Wow.
She was fully booked yesterday.
I don't think she has a life. I mean, she says she enjoys it though. I mean, I've said something to her about it on the phone before our May 11th meeting, and she says, I just love my job and I love everything about it. So good for her. But anyway, I trust we will hear from her shortly with a final approval. And did anyone have any comments on the memo that I sent out yesterday?
No, good memo.
Okay.
Very complete.
Thank you. I found couple of typos, but oh well. It got out anyway. Thank you.
I wasn't.
So
looking
any other
for
comments
typos.
that anyone was that?
I wasn't looking for typos.
Okay. Good. So any other comments anyone wants to have about the meeting that we had on Saturday or anything else?
I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there, but it sounds like y'all did a great job. So thanks for carrying the water.
Well, thank you, Bill. Yeah, we I think you might have enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed the heck out of it. Michael did a great job on the training. We had quite a few people there. What's that, Bill?
It sounded like an interesting process.
Yeah, especially when we actually got an amendment to an amendment. Thank you, Tom.
Hey.
It was a good one too. If you hadn't made it, I think I would have. But we did tell Hillary that we would put this or just consider it for the policies and procedures. And Tom immediately put a draft in there. So, okay, so moving on, no one has any other comments. We'll move into policies and procedures. So this is going to be really, really rough. I haven't said it to you. I will after the meeting, but after Tom has a chance to do his magic on it, because Word, I first had a list, but it didn't match Tom's list that he has on the site. So I tried to edit and I put it under a different title, Tom, so as a list, but you have all this fancy formatting and it's a mess. So I'm going to send it to you after to clean up, but I thought at least it would give us something to start with here.
Yeah, various versions of Word are incompatible, which is why I've insisted on being the only person to touch the Word file.
Yes, and you can clean this up. I've taken all the change tracking and hidden it because that's why it's put as a list. It's not an R4. It's a whole new document, and I can try to clean it up more easily so you can put it in your document, but you'll see it's very rough. So some of this is stuff Tom already had in here, like the reference map. The automatic parts of Word will change the article numbers from what they should be. And so anyway, Tom, I can also just try to put it in a different document so you can more easily add it into.
Worst case, I know how to fix it. Worst case.
Okay. So it's kind of all over the map in terms of, I tried to keep it in somewhat semblance of order for the various articles, but we really didn't have anything for Article 1 or Article 2 that I've seen. Have any of the rest of you had a chance to really look at the policies and procedures or compared to the bylaws?
I started doing it, Nancy, and I didn't finish it, but I came up with a number of questions that were raised by the wording in the bylaws and by the provisions that need to be answered, I think, to some extent by Jeff to find out how nimble our website is for the purposes of exchange of information, demands for documents or requests for documents, things of that nature. And so I created just a set of notes in the margins of the bylaws that are really too numerous to go through today. But I wonder if maybe the thing to do is for us to spend some time offline between now and our next meeting, compiling a list of the things that we have identified as being necessary to implement and or to set policies. I mean, I even came up with one for Article 1.
Okay.
It just seems to me that there's a plethora of possibilities. And I use that term advisedly because I saw it in the minutes that Michael used the term encomium, and I had to look at it this morning.
Yeah, me too.
So my apologies, Michael, but I didn't know what that was, and you got me. Anyway, I just came up with and I didn't get through the whole set of bylaws. I got about halfway through them. So I am thinking that maybe that's a starting point, but I'm not married to that either.
No, I think that's great. That's kind of what I was doing too, Wyatt, was going through our kind of article by article and kind of sticking some things in here very roughly, but the things that Tom had in here were not rough. So I really probably just should have left it as a regular list, and I'll work on, maybe as I'm driving up to Oregon tomorrow, or I'm riding up to Oregon tomorrow, I'll work on cleaning this up. And Wyatt, do you want to send your list to Tom and me, and
sure.
And we can kind of try to incorporate. So I'll just go through briefly some ideas, but one of the things it sounds like we should also look at working on is a website, web page for the bylaws subcommittee. The community plan has one, and that might help with as we move on, have things where people can access our documents more easily. So that's a whole nother discussion that we can tackle maybe next year. But for one of the things, I guess, for Article 1, that Guy Sievert had suggested was adding a definition for citizen. And that's something we can revisit later. And I know we talked about that earlier, so Tom has the periodic surveys that need to be added. I think that's under, well, I don't know what article. Under officers, there are quite a few. We need to flesh out the job descriptions, particularly for treasurer and secretary, where we kind of left a lot of detail for secretary. And then I think basically this is something that the officers have said that they're kind of eager to see as a policy manual for themselves because they don't have one. And when they came into office, both Chris and Jeff have mentioned this, when they came into office, they really didn't have a lot of knowledge about what to do. And so I think they could help us with this. We could ask them to help flesh out their respective areas. But one of the things that we had said under treasurer when I talked with Sarah, that was the one thing that the county attorney still had not approved. I think Sarah was actually just getting a little mixed up. She thought, I think, that we were talking about actually getting them reimbursed now and how the county would reimburse them. And that's not really what we were talking about. We were just saying it wasn't really feasible to have 2 signatures on checks. So she said it was fine to go ahead and put in under the bylaws that the treasurer will pay expenditures in a timely fashion. And then in the policies and procedures, we would have some information about how they do that. So if it's online, right, they can use a debit card like they've been doing. If it's they do have a checking account with checks that they would need to have 2 signatures. So we can work with the officers on that, but we promised that we would put that in there. And then of course, secretary has that very, very detailed area where I think we could spend some time during the next year cleaning that up, having maybe a little less in the bylaws and more in the policies and procedures. So my guess is that we'll have some bylaws amendments along the way as we clean up the policies and procedures. We need to have more details on how people qualify for office, what vetting is done or not done, how people can nominate from the floor and what they need to provide when they nominate from the floor, et cetera. So just basically more fleshing out of nominations and elections. We need to do more on Article 3 of how authorized representatives are selected, and that's something Tom had worked on. Organizations of subcommittees and task forces is going to be a big area, and Guy Sievert is suggesting a monitoring task force. That's just a name I slapped on it. I'm not sure what it would actually be called, but it would be a standing task force. He said that he actually does all this monitoring right now. So it's all these bullets here. Can you guys see this okay? Except for Bill. So he does this, and he was thinking, he's not going to be doing this forever, that there could be a whole group of people that are charged with looking into all these different things and reporting as necessary at the NCAC meetings, or giving a heads up if there's an issue that comes up that the NCAC should be concerned with. So I think I was going to bring this up at the executive board meeting because it's really up to them to start new task forces. But I thought, I can't think of anything more relevant to what the NCAC does than monitor these different agencies for things that can affect Nescoin. So are there any comments on this?
Seems like a good idea. I'm not sure that I want to sign up for it, but
No, but we can maybe help get it set up in the policies and procedures. And it might be something where if it is standing, it could be added to the bylaws at some point as well. So since we have outreach and communications in the bylaws, this could be an addition in the bylaws.
It seems it gives value to the NCAC, because sometimes people wonder what actually is done. by the
Mhm.
NCAC, it would raise the visibility.
Yeah, it just seems like it's kind of one of our main things,
Mhm.
or main, what's the Article 2s. So lots in meetings, we need to define more about the roll call vote procedure, define the honor system. These are just, as I say, very rough notes. But as I was going through some of the videos, I noted the meeting and where in the video we talked about some of these things. So if you see something like 329 meeting 39 minutes in, we had some stuff where Sarah was talking to us about roll call voting. We talked about doing more in conflict of interest, providing more information that is in the documentation for the state of Oregon, a couple of different groups that gives more detail, because what I found in the training was that they provide is that there's a lot of, uncertainty around what constitutes a conflict and whether it's something that you have to declare. So that conflict, sometimes it's not a conflict when it might appear to be on the surface. So I don't know how much we want to get into that. We're not lawyers, but we might at least have some reference with links to where people can get the information about conflicts.
Yeah, that's such a value judgment. And, I have an interest in Nesquin, otherwise I wouldn't be here. What does that mean in terms of a conflict? If I have a certain vision that other people don't, is that a conflict of interest? I mean, it's really nasty.
Right, and that's exactly what some of this more documentation and training goes into, Tom, is that it's not necessarily a conflict, because people do often get on boards and because they have a certain perspective or a certain interest, and it's not necessarily a conflict of interest. So it was interesting reading, and I just kind of dipped my toe into some of this, but enough to know that there's more than meets the eye that we can put in definitions necessarily, but at least maybe have some links to where people can look that up a little bit more. And maybe we have somebody from the county come in and do a training on that for the officers and the committee members, subcommittee members. On the executive boards, I just made a note that we need to have meeting cancellation rules, and I don't remember why. So that's kind of all I had, because frankly, I haven't spent that much time on it. Sounds like Wyatt, you have a lot more than that. So I like Wyatt's suggestion that we continue. If you guys have any suggestions for this, maybe Wyatt, you and I can get together and go through our mutual lists and send them to Tom. And,
Okay.
And then Tom, we can send it out to the group before the next meeting. Does that sound good? And then if we can do it, say in the next few days, then the rest of you can take a look and see what you would like to, and we'll have it more structured by article. But I'm thinking that we could kind of tackle it article up by article, like we did the bylaws, right?
Yeah,
and
I
we
agree.
can have little subgroups again, tackling things article by article. The question is when we want to start this, but does that sound like a plan? Is to, because I think even though if we come up with a list of things ahead of time, as people go through article by article, they're going to see more.
Nancy, do you want all those recommendations funneled through you or directly to Tom?
I think either way. Tom, I don't know. Tom's really busy right now with the community plan and some other things. So Tom,
Okay.
I'm happy to take them and try to group them together for this part of it. What do you think, though?
Well, I think directly is fine. It's a different mindset with the community plan, put it that way. Whereas we are quite, what I like to call engineering oriented. We have a task that we're very artistic over there in the community plan. So it is a different mindset. It's also enjoyable, but it is different. So
yeah,
maybe a little bit of being an engineer by trade. I kind of like this.
Okay, good. I kind of like it too. So I'll do whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm
Yeah.
happy to, if Tom, if you have the time, then why don't we send things to Tom? If not, I can be the person
I-
you send to. So,
If I started getting behind on it, because I'm doing other things, I'll let you know and then I'll post
Okay,
it
Okay.
off on you. So
Okay.
I'll take it first.
okay, that sounds great.
May
Thank
I
you.
ask a question? I'm looking just at this document and I'm curious about the paragraph about the public identification of a person on the CAC. What is that about?
This is from Guy also. So that whole thing here is Guy. So I would like to make
Okay.
sure there is some public identification of a person on the CAC who's the contact if you have some info you think needs to be shared with the community. For instance, there's been some specific to Tillamook County legislative action that could impact us. In particular, lately, the act that allows RVs to be used on as ADU. I think those are mother-in-law units, so on RR2 zoned lands. So I think what he's saying is, it sounds like if we have a task force to do this monitoring, that the chair of that task force would be the contact, and probably there would be something like our bylaws email that would be set up for that monitoring task force. And I'm sure there's a better name than monitoring. I just kind of threw that up, but that there be I think that's what he's saying, is that there would be a person that could be, or an email or whatever that could be used to funnel these kinds of things, so that people outside these different agencies could notify someone in the CAC whose
Got it.
job it is to do that. That would be my read on it. But I'm sure as we get into it, we'll get Guy involved more on it. But I had no idea who's doing all this stuff. He says he spends a terrific amount of time at it, and he doesn't plan to forever. So it'd be nice to set something up where it could be spread out over different people, and he's been doing it unofficially. So, and the nice thing too is I think right now he contacts someone if he feels like there's an issue and just handles it. Whereas if it's through the NCAC, then there's the NCAC behind it. So there'd be all sorts of things to write into the policies and procedures and or bylaws about how they would operate, for getting approval from the officers, or how much authority and autonomy would they have, and is this getting into policy? Should it be a subcommittee? It's one thing depending on what they do, right?
Yeah. The problem with being a subcommittee, obviously, is that the organizational
Right.
overhead.
Right. That's
And
true.
it's just too diverse. I mean,
Right.
I don't think it can possibly be a committee.
That's true. And really what he's talking about is reporting, monitoring and reporting, and then maybe someone else would do the actual work. So basically, I think we have an action item that we can really take seriously now that we're done with bylaws, for hopefully the time being. For the next, let's say within the next week, Wyatt, that you and I get our input to Tom, so that we can get it sent out within a week for the rest of the committee to take a look at before we discuss things and organize things for our next meeting.
That sounds
In
good.
terms of actually working on these, we would have an opportunity at the June 22nd, assuming it is the 22nd meeting, to present and vote on some policies and procedures. We had talked before about possibly doing some low-hanging fruit to be able to do that before the end of the fiscal year. I kind of had a sense, as Tom and I were talking the other day, that maybe we're a little numb, but do we feel like we're ready to put some, or that we would be ready in these next two meetings to put something forward? Because we would have to notice it, so, and the June 21st meeting is the day before the June 22nd meeting. So it could be that we just go ahead and have a committee, bylaws committee, subcommittee report that just said, hey, we have new bylaws, and this is what we're working on, policies and procedures. We're taking the summer off, and and hopefully we get elected. And, come join us. So
if we could notice a draft, I think that'd be good. I don't know about anything approval, We'd have to do a subset in order to get an approval, but a draft, I think, is a reasonable goal. Stretch goal would be a subset as an approval.
Mhm. Okay, because a lot of these, I think just forming a list is going to be, that having actual wording, like the map is ready to go, obviously. And some of the other, I think we could do pretty quickly, but if it's going to be organized, it would just be doing a lot of editing. Jeff had brought up a comment too that I want to get some input from Sarah on. He was suggesting, well, we need to find out how much does the county attorney need to look at policies and procedures. So he implied that if it has to go to the county attorney, it should probably be in the bylaws. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think hopefully Sarah can just make a decision herself on these different policies and procedures, and they, it's brand new. So I don't know that we would have to go through the county attorney for something like that. Hopefully
Well,
not.
I mean, the county attorney has already agreed that the PNP does not have to be approved by them by approving the bylaws, because that's what we say in the bylaws. We said that it is only
Approved by the
majority.
membership. Well,
Yeah.
okay. You have a point. We'll see if Sarah agrees with that. Did we lose someone? Oh, we lost Bill.
Bill,
Okay.
yeah, I think he,
So I think that's really it on policies and procedures. I think we have an action plan for that. So on to the oh, here's coming back. Hi, Bill. We can't see you, but it looks like you've connected via audio. Can you hear us?
Maybe going in and out of coverage.
Maybe. There you are. Can you hear us okay? I don't want you to have an accident. I would feel bad. So we had talked possibly about just taking July and August off and starting in fresh in September, like right after Labor Day. Does that sound good? Or I'm amenable to doing whatever. I really don't have any plans over the summer. So what are you guys in the mood to do? And obviously any new people that are on the committee would need to be a part of this too. But
I think we could do a lot of background work. I see as this is like Congress taking the summer off. But actually there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. And then once we get kind of organized about our thoughts about what needs to be included in the policies and procedures, then starting off in the fall with feedback sessions as part of our meetings so that we could start that public integration process.
yeah, the only problem is that, we're under Oregon public meeting law, even for policies and procedures. So we have to be real careful. It would be BCCing people and having, one-on-one meetings and that kind of thing, unless we actually have meetings. So,
Yeah.
so while we, I kind of think either there might be a little one-on-one, two-person subcommittee to talk about these different things. We could do that. I mean, we could talk in the June 21st meeting about setting up two-person teams to be working on the policies and procedures throughout the summer. How does that sound?
Good.
And then maybe instead of having two meetings a month, we have one meeting a month. Or we
So
just
that
wait.
one meeting a month sounds reasonable. I think a lot of stuff can go on in the background at a low level. And I've got some plans for the summer, so I won't have 100% duty in the summer. So.
Okay. So does that sound like a plan that on the meeting on the, well, either the June 7th or the June 21st meeting, we go ahead and make some initial assignments for articles and think about whether you want to do the same articles you did before or whether you want to switch it up. Some articles are quite a bit more extensive than other articles, as we know. So think about that and just let me know why don't we just, I'll put it on the agenda for June 7th. We can talk
Okay.
about how we want to split that out. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, and then we'll plan on a meeting a month. Do you guys have your summer plans lined out? Do you want to just plan on the first Friday morning or the third Friday morning of the month?
Summer months planned out. That's interesting. What kind of a concept is that one?
Except for the month of July, July 4th is on Thursday. And so the first Friday of July would be right after the 4th of July.
Okay, that's a good point. So what about the third Friday of the month for July and August?
That sounds fine to me, except the only thing that I have on Fridays, and it's once a month and they are not scheduled out yet, is a group that I have at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Your piano group, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And I can switch that around, but the thing is that at my age, I need to practice.
Yeah, kudos to you for that. That's a lot of work, I know.
Well, I've been doing a lot of Brahms and Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff and so on. And this next time I'm going to be doing some Bob James, good jazz.
Okay.
That's going
All
to
right.
blow everybody away.
Okay, well, why don't you guys think about it? Why don't we tentatively think about the third Friday in July and the third Friday in August, and then we'll go back to our regular schedule. And also think about whether you'd like to switch up the meeting times for next year. So, and we'll need to have that conversation with whoever ends up on the committee as well, in case anybody's joining us next year. All right, any just general comments?
I was very pleased about how things went. I know, Nancy, you were fretting about it. Those things, I think the fashion in which we did it, with public input at each meeting, and detailed, focused, and a lot of listening, helped immensely. And people got to say what they wanted to say, and they had the opportunity to come to understand differing points of view and to be comfortable with it. I thought Tom Prohadich's comments were very, very satisfying. It was very pleasing to hear him say that, because he feels these things deeply, and that was good to hear from him. It was a good thing. The whole thing was a good thing. I was shared with Nancy, and I'll share with the rest of you. Tomorrow morning, I got an emergency call a couple of days ago from a group down in Walport, a very, very similar group, but they have been at war with each other over somebody's parliamentary procedures misunderstandings. And so their attorney said, you need a parliamentarian, because they're going to be looking tomorrow at a brand new set of bylaws that some group put together. Holy moly. And so, and I'm walking in on this 4 days in advance of knowledge. That's it. So,
And they're actually
Might be
presenting
on
for final
Zoom?
approval, Michael?
yes, they are. And so it's like they skipped all of the rest of that stuff. And so, but I'm primed for that, because of this group right here.
You want a Kevlar suit?
Yeah, that's right. Well,
To be on Zoom, can we get a box of popcorn?
yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. Well, I love a sense of humor, and I think that will do well in this group. We know what we're doing now because of what we've been through for 10 months. They don't, and I think we can help, and so we're going to do that.
But you'll have to let us know, Michael.
Oh, I
Let us
will.
know
I
how that
will.
goes.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
just keep,
well, we can hear about it on Tuesday. right?
yeah, keep me in your thoughts and prayers.
Well, that'll be fun. That'll be
Yeah,
fun.
well, yeah.
Well, I can't believe it's 10:12, and but I really don't see that there's anything else to talk about at the moment, and I think we can take a well-deserved break and think about policies and procedures topics. And Wyatt, if you wouldn't mind sending me your document, I'll
Yeah,
make sure that maybe I can. That'll spring things to mind. I'm going to send my document, send it to Tom too, and then I'll send mine to Tom. Even in the mess it's in, Tom, and if you want me to try to extract
Okay,
it.
you guys have 4 days. You do what you do.
Okay.
And then I'll, whatever you have that at that point, I'll start looking at integrating. How about that?
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
great. Okay, I'm going to say meeting adjourned. I'm going to stop recording.